Well, this started off to be a nice, intimate little affair of maybe a dozen people. And so then we said, maybe it's going to take a few more people, so we better put it in the chapel across the hall here. Chapel holds 25 people, and maybe they can squeeze in another 6 chairs. So then suddenly June Anderson, whoever she is, where are you, June? Oh, there you are. June said, no, I think we better move into the sanctuary. And I am totally overwhelmed that I have so many friends and family that will give up a Sunday afternoon to come and be with me. It's beyond me. And I'm still seeing people that I didn't get a chance to welcome. So, hi. Ted and I didn't get our act together about this afternoon. I knew I was supposed to give a response, and we have Elizabeth McDonald who's bringing some comments, and Elizabeth gave up Sunday morning in Kingston to be with us today, and I'm just thrilled about that. I could rhyme off at least 20 people who have helped me and done things for this day. And I spoke to a friend this at noon hour, and she said, you can't possibly name them all, Marion, it's going to take too much time. Furthermore, if you start thanking some people, you're bound to forget somebody or leave somebody out. You know who you are. You have helped me in so many ways. And here's another helper right there. So instead of giving you some theological reflection, which I'm not trained to do, I'm going to show you some of my story. Ted has just totally stolen my comments. So you heard of what I've been doing. Now you're going to see a little bit of what I've done. And it's my story, and my story has only merit because you people have all been a part of my story. I just couldn't be anything without all of you friends who are here. And I've had emails and phone calls and cards and gifts, and it's just too much. So thank you so much. And I did this. This is something I picked up in my international work, and you know it too. You've seen international people, Asian people. I honor that which is sacred within you. So that's what I do with each one of you. So Gail's going to help me out with my slideshow. Okay, please tell me if this doesn't work. And Elizabeth might be helping me out. Do you want to sit here so I can pass you the mic? And can everybody see the screen? Okay, I'm going to... Whoops. Your story is my story. Your story is our story. My story, at least a small part of it, includes your stories. Ted, can this move out a little bit? Just a bit to the side. I'm finding I can't see that, and I don't want to stand in front of the screen. That's fine, thank you. Okay, probably everybody here, if you're United Protestant, United Presbyterian or whatever, we all did explore groups for young girls, we did CGIT groups, we did high C groups, young people's groups, camping, and then we moved on into other volunteer work. Where's Elizabeth? Why don't you read that?
History's demonstrated that the most notable winners usually encounter heartbreaking obstacles before they triumph. They won because they refused to become discouraged by defeats.
Thank you. Violence against women was an emerging issue in the 70s. 1978, while I was with the YWCA, about 8 of us, with the help of the Rotarians who found a rundown building, started a women's shelter on a very tight budget. It was only to be a short-term project, they said. It would soon go away. Well, I went up to the Haven shelter last month, and they have this big building that accommodates 30 women, 30 abused women, and they are needing to put on an extension. And they also operate on a budget, a tight budget, $3.4 million. A shameful indictment on our society and what's happening. When I went to the National Office of the United Church, Shelley Finson, Shelley's a tall, striking woman with piercing black eyes. She came into my office the first day and she said, "And what are you going to do for we feminists?" And I said, "What's a feminist?" I quickly learned, and there's a little addendum to that. I noticed Nancy Ruth. There was a picture of Nancy Ruth up there. On the second week or something, Nancy Jackman arrived in my office and virtually said the same thing. "What are you going to do for us?" Nancy Jackman is now Senator Nancy Ruth. So there was that pressure coming, and my ministry with adults portfolio really was, to begin with, the UCW. So that's where a lot of pressure came into the job because of the expectations for it. These were the issues that we were dealing with in the 80s. Inclusive language, God language, is God he, is God a she, is God a spirit? Sexuality issues, Women's Concerns newsletter, which Ted addressed, the Ontario Women's Conference with feminist perspective, and World Council Churches conferences in Venice, Italy, which was a total conversion for me, and also the end of the decade of churches in solidarity with women in Harare, Zimbabwe. The Ontario Women's Conference changed lives. Whoops, nope, back up, Gil, sorry. We listened to a new theology, and Squire was leader. Dodie Donnelly came to the first one. And we learned a whole bunch of new songs. Women told their stories when they came to the conference. They were an important event in everyone's life, everybody who attended. And Joe was the pianist at the first one. And if I can tell a funny story on Joe, the first night they had overhead slides with all the music on it. And when Ann Squire was chairing the committee, and when the committee met that night to evaluate what had happened the first day, this was the first conference, they all said, the hymns, the songs aren't inclusive language. Poor Joe was sent to her room to make the overhead slides inclusive. A friend from Japan that I met along the way, I'll let you read that. Women's spirituality groups sprung up. The Gathering of Faithful Women in Waterloo, Rua and Journey Women here in Cambridge, and they told their stories, they developed their faith journey, they developed their theology, they critiqued church theology that they found was not meaningful in their lives. The books that these women's groups read: Beyond God the Father, Woman Wisdom, Feminist Theology from the Third World, which enlightened me quite a bit, A Feminist Ethic of Risk, and many, many more. And we told our stories. We shared our stories with each other. Sexuality issues. It was a tough time for the church. And I told everybody that I'm the mother of gay son. We marched in Ottawa. Busload went up to the March on Poverty. Women of Faith, UCC, United Church of Canada, women of faith band on the top. We all wore t-shirts and sweatshirts, had a great time with them. Jean Skillman, she's here someplace. I think Jean said she had about 50 in her cupboard. Women's choir started after a one-day workshop, and Ann Turner was the music director. And at the end, we were packing up, and Ann said, everybody really enjoyed the singing. We should need to keep on singing. So they came to my house for 2 or 3 times. This group got too big. They went to Carolyn Yeaman's house. They got too big, and they moved up to St. Luke's Place. And the choir, after all those years, is still singing.
This is a Greta Vosper quote. Whenever we can speak positively about something that matters to us, we can raise someone's consciousness and so change their minds, attitudes, and lives.
Ted mentioned the Women's Concerns newsletter. Am I in anybody's way? No, okay. And Ann Martin, it started off as a little mimeograph event, and then it developed into, under Ann Martin's leadership, that's Ann on the left, into a really high-class magazine. Those 2 pictures I took of the crucified woman and the senior women in a statue in Oslo, Norway. And when I look at the, I really shouldn't say this, but when I look at the picture of the elderly women, I used to say, well, yeah, that's what 2 elderly women look like. Now, I stand in front of the mirror in the bathroom when I come out of the shower and I see myself. Wesley United Church has gone through some interesting times. When Elizabeth MacDonald was here, we adopted a policy on inclusive language, an affirming congregation, meaning we accept fully gays and lesbians and bisexual people. Close relationships with South Africa was wonderful. We used to make phone calls to them and had visits back and forth. Out of the Cold in Waterloo region began here, and we sponsored a refugee family from Vietnam. We're married. Where's the refugee family? Laos. We have had a wonderful Discuss and Discover group. I'd like to read it. Provost Riverside, Cambridge, great place to be. And a story about that picture is Janice Moon and I, as well as Jeanette, were on the program committee. Janice announced that March was St. Patrick's Day. And Marion quietly says, it's also the month of International Women's Day. They said, you do it. So there's the display. You'll recognize some of the things there. And Edna Light was visiting here, and she spoke at Provost as well. Very exciting decade. More storytelling. And David, my son David said, where are you going this time, Mom? Private meeting with Bishop, His Honorable Des Tutu. It was a very special time. Lots and lots of women, lots and lots of people in South Africa still do not have running water. No, there's a little bit underneath that, Gail. The woman on the right picture is thanking me for coming to be with them. A very humbling time for me. Jetty Sprong is the one who sent the greeting last night. Question. If God is all good, then is there any logical way to explain pain? I don't have an explanation. Maybe you do. So I still struggle with all the turmoil in the world. I can't resolve it with my Christian faith. Because I was having so much trouble with South Africa, I decided I'd share that trouble, and I took a group of 9 women to South Africa. And there they are, Barb Whitney, that was Barb's card. Barb's here today. Liz Bella's here today. Marion Mutton from Parkminster. And Mary Weismiller, I don't know where you were when the picture was taken, Mary. But they had a wonderful time, and many of them made return visits to South Africa, and a group from South Africa came to Canada as well. I took up stained glass as a therapy. So those are some of my creations that lasted. World Federation of Methodists and United Church Women also changed my life. A past president, a president, and a future president in that last picture. This picture is a group out on the lawn. Notice the racial diversity, hardly any white people, which makes us realize that as white people in this world, we are a big minority. But we try and run the world. Break time.
Francis Wright reminds us it's about seeing women not as victims and not as helpless. The power of women is palpable, if only we have the confidence to unleash it.
The woman on the left, Comfort Logan. We used to have a joke. Comfort comes from Nigeria. Marion comes from Canada. So we used to talk about great-great-grandfather Logan, who was a sea captain from Ireland. And the symbol logo of the World Federation is the Tree of Life. Ewell Women's University was started by one American missionary to Korea with one student. And now they have this wonderful building and program. See the blue arrow? The border between Korea, North Korea and South Korea is in the news almost every day the last week. Americans are jazzing up their presence in South Korea. So many of these women live with so much fear, and the fear is almost, you can cut it with a knife, whether it's in South Africa, Korea, parts of Ireland, North Ireland. Crucified woman, and that's Nellie McClung on the right. The 1929 women officially became persons in Canada with legal rights. 1929. Nellie McClung, the famous 5, went to Ottawa. So Some of you will see yourselves there. It's on our dining room table, that was a gift. So, I still ask the question, does God care? These are logos, the one from the Waterloo Women's Conference, and the other one is the United Nations logo. So the church has lost 2 generations. When I look at a dozen of my friends, we collectively have about 30 children, and of those 30 adult kids who are now pushing 60, only one is active in the church. He sings in the church choir in London. I don't know if he's in the choir because of the theology or because he likes to sing. The church has, in essence, lost 2 generations because my grandkids, my son doesn't go, my grandkids don't go. How does the church exist in a postmodern, post-Christian, secular society? I don't hear too many people in the church facing that head on. They'd rather say, wait till I die. Who's prepared to create a new church to listen to the spiritual yearnings of our younger generation? Because I think we are created as spiritual beings, but we have to find a new way. And we heard that in church this morning. And what about my granddaughter? Do we have anything for her? And to you too, for the Center for Christian Studies, your graduates lead the way. Who's next? I think so.
The great secret of life is how to survive the struggle without succumbing to it. How to bear struggle without being defeated by it. How to come out of great struggle better than when we found ourselves in the midst of it.
As you know, I've had great struggle. I've shared some of that with you, and I still struggle. So, my story and your story, my story is your story. Yeah?